All right, wrestling fans, Kurt Clapier here with highschoolwrestlingmatches.com. We're excited to have you listening to another Utah Wrestling podcast. We've got a full line tonight. We got Jeff Newby on. We've got Ethan Lofthouse on to talk about UVU wrestling for us a little bit. And we've got Cole Kelly and Brian Priest. I got the whole crew on tonight, actually. But the main purpose of tonight's podcast is to talk about the Intersquad meet at UVU. That's basically their wrestle-offs they're hosting this weekend. That's why we got Ethan on tonight. But before we get into that, since this is the last chance we have to talk about the banquet, we want to get into that a little bit with Jeff Newby. So, Jeff, before we jump into UVU's Intersquad meet, what can you tell us? What's important for our listeners to know about the banquet?
Kurt, you cut out for a little bit there.
I just want you to talk a little bit about the banquet, Jeff.
Yeah, what's important for our listeners to know about the UVU banquet?
So the banquet's coming up on the 1st of November, so Tuesday. This is an opportunity to we're inducting 3 former World of Fame, as well as handing out a bunch of awards to our youth as well, and recognizing Triple Crown winners, All-Americans from Fargo. So this event, it's huge for the UVU wrestling program. There's a couple things that the money will go towards. Number one, it's going to help with keeping our top assistants here in Utah. It helps fund our assistant coaches at UVU, and it also helps, UVU's in the process, and Ethan can maybe talk just briefly about this. UVU's in the process of making UVU a regional training center, Olympic regional training center. So the money raised at the banquet is helping us bring in wrestlers and establish that regional training center. Ethan, kind of give us a background. What will a regional training center do? What's the importance of it? Why do we need that here in Utah?
You know what? So the coaching staff, you kind of already hit on that. The banquet's a big fundraiser for, supplementing those salaries and helping out there. And not only is us as a coaching staff, we're helping, to develop the top athletes that come to UVU into, All-Americans and national champs, but we're also, we're getting that RTC here in Orem, and that's a big help to, especially the youth of the state, because now we're giving them an extra opportunity to train at the regional training center in Orem, to come and, pick our brains as coaches, pick our brains as, as our current athletes, our past athletes, look at guys like Jade Rouser and Ben Karras, guys like that, who have had success at the highest levels. And now the youth is, they're allowed to come in, I think it's 250-mile radius. So basically the whole state can come and do that, where before it was 50-mile radius. And so that was kind of, one of those things that made us push for the RTC. And not only that, the RTC allows for us to, bring in guys from out of the state. So if we wanted to reach out to guys at Penn State or Iowa or, any of these other top programs or top level athletes, we can bring them in for a certain amount of time for training for world teams and things like that. And it allows, not only our guys at Utah Valley to, get hands-on and coaching from them, but it allows the youth to, pick their brains and things like that. Cause everyone in wrestling is a little bit different, has a little bit different style. So maybe we bring a guy like, maybe a guy like David Taylor, who has a little bit different style than what any of us as assistant coaches have or bring to the table. So maybe guys come in and, pick his brain a little bit, or, that's just an example, but that's just what the RTC offers. And it's a big opportunity to progress the sport of wrestling in the whole state of Utah at all levels and all age groups. So it's a big thing.
Ethan, and Jeff, Ethan's microphone was cutting out a little bit, his internet on his end. But so let's just hit the bullet points in case it didn't totally make sense to everybody. So help me, Jeff and Cole, help me, and Ethan, help me recap the bullet points. So we're becoming a regional training center through USA Wrestling at UVU. And by doing so, that means that where before we could only bring guys in within a 50-mile radius due to recruiting rules, right? That was the reason for that
Correct.
restriction.
Correct. NCAA
Now
rules, yes.
So now if it's a USA Regional Training Center, the entire state's legal to work out there. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, correct.
How will those workouts work? And does USA, what goes into this? Does USA just approve us? Do they give us money? Do we give them money? How does that happen?
They basically just approve us, and I mean, it's as easy as that. And now, Jade Rouser, he's the head development coach now, so he'll be setting up workouts and things like that, and it's right there on campus. And there's we'll all be there as coaching staff, and even current athletes will be there too. So it's
that's
good.
Awesome. And so how do you plan on utilizing it, Jeff and Ethan? Will there be camps that kids pay to come to? Will there be occasional national team practices like we were going to do at high schools that everybody can come to? What's kind of the plan?
Well, I think one of the things that Ethan hit on we raised from the banquet is going to be partly to help bring in people to train at the regional training center. And Ethan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that in and of itself is huge to get top level guys that are training for the Olympics to come in and be able to pay for them to train full time. It's going to help our youth. It's going to help our college guys. It's going to help, from the smallest kid to the college guy or the guy training for the Olympics. It's going to help, all levels of wrestling. And that's a big part of the banquet and raising that money is to be able to do these type of things. So.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's perfect.
Hey,
Is a regional training center different than what Michigan's been doing with Greco? Or was doing? I don't know if they still are.
Yeah, it is. It is a little bit different. They're more of like that's more of like a college, and that's kind of like their specialty. Where
Gotcha.
we're as a regional training center, we are a university that is focusing on folks out in D1, and then in the off season, things like that, we can bring these guys in, and help them. I mean, like I said, we're trying to create the whole state of Utah to become better. So we bring these guys in, and now, we're training them, getting them ready to go to junior duels or cadet duels or schoolboy duels or, all these other national tournaments. So,
I think what's cool is the 250-mile radius. That actually extends a little bit past Utah. And you can get the western slope of Colorado. You can get a lot of southern Idaho. Maybe reach into, some parts of Nevada where there's, some pockets of pretty quality wrestling. So, going from 50 to 250, that's a huge deal.
Yeah, awesome news. Good job, guys. That's cool.
And so, I think, this is probably the next step in the UVU wrestling program to get a RTC going and get guys in here training and helping our athletes. So the banquet is huge. It's huge for UVU and making these things happen and getting our youth better, getting everybody to the next level. And we understand, a lot of people can't make the banquet. And so, everyone has the opportunity to participate and donate. Tomorrow we'll be starting our online auction. Anybody can bid on items on the online auction. Everybody can give donations. So everybody can help. Even if you can't come to the banquet, we encourage everyone to donate what they can to help with this cause and to bid on items. And all that will be up on WrestleUtah.com tomorrow. And you can start bidding and contribute that way. At the banquet, we'll have the auction. We'll have an auction, live silent auction with a raffle and of course banquet tickets. All that goes into helping fund these things.
So there's like three auctions basically. You got the online auction, the silent auction, and then a little bit of a live auction. So
right.
So
and Jeff, this might be an accountant question, but I'll ask it anyways. Are these all tax deductible donations?
They are. So every donation, we're a 501c3. So every donation you make, if you guys need receipts or whatever, that's something we can get. And again, no donation is too small. Lots of small donations make big donations. So even if you can't donate a big donation, whatever you can do definitely helps.
That's awesome. Okay. Anything else when you talk about the banquet? I'm excited for it.
I think that covers it.
Let me just mention the three guys that are being inducted in: Robert Still, Jeff Winderland. What was the third one? I'm sorry.
Travis Gittens.
Travis Gittens.
Okay. But just real quick, I wanted to kind of mention a little bit about two of them I know, and then Brian could probably tell you about Jeff. But Robert Still, I had the chance to coach with him at Orem High, but built a tradition at Orem High School, won 4 team state titles, was the head coach at Orem High, wrestled at BYU and Ricks, and had BYU had a great wrestling career there, won a WAC title a couple times. And so good wrestler, great coach. And he's one guy that we'll be recognizing there. And then Winderland, you guys in the audience probably, familiar with clubs like Legacy, clubs like Metal, clubs like Champions and things like that. Big club in Utah, and that was Sundance.
Yep, that's a good club.
That put out some good kids that did well. I know, if I started mentioning names, there's a bunch of guys that are still involved in the sport. I know Greg Robbins came out of Sundance. John Kelly, who has helped out here and there, came out of Sundance, and so that was a top level club back in the day.
Well,
Yeah.
Sundance also became TAC, and a lot of more recent studs came out of TAC when that existed.
Yeah, I'm not a stud, but definitely wrestled for Sundance way back when. And my brother, the Lucero brothers, the Robbins brothers, they're some of the ones. And Greg Robbins, a past inductee, he's been really pushing hard for Jeff. So I think that makes him real happy that he's being inducted, because I know he meant a lot to Greg's career. And so forth. And then Travis, probably Ethan probably knows Travis Gittens, or heard plenty of stories about him, I'm sure, going through the Mountain Crest program. Travis was a 2-time state champion, I believe, for Mountain Crest, way back when, and probably the mid-'80s, a couple of years after me. And I know he went back and wrestled at Oklahoma State, one of our first Utahns to really go wrestle for a big-time program, and stayed involved in wrestling. He decided to stay in Oklahoma and raise his family there. And I think he's a doctor and does a lot of charity work and does a lot of charity work for wrestling. So a good choice there. That's what I remember about Travis. He actually started wrestling as I began my coaching career in the late 1980s, and he was a phenomenal wrestler, and probably would have been an All-American in Oklahoma State. He had some injuries sort of derail his hopes, but truly one of the greatest wrestlers Utah's ever produced. Ethan, what do you know about Travis? I'm sure Davey Swinson talked about him a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I know more about the stories and things like that, but just more about his career. But from what I've heard, he's a stud, and I mean he was up here this last summer. I think he ran a camp up at Mountain Crest and things. So, like you said, he's giving back to the wrestling community and things like that. So he's a stud.
Yeah, and
cool.
Just real quick, I just want to say a nice plug about Bob Still too. I competed against him as a coach, and remember him as a wrestler. I was old enough to remember. He's a few years older than me, and a great football player, a great wrestler, WAC champion wrestler at BYU. So a very successful athlete, college, and then of course, a lot of us know him a little bit more as a coach, but a great coach. I think he won 3 state titles for the Orem Tigers. So maybe Cole can correct me if I'm wrong, but and had a lot of great wrestlers.
Yeah.
So 3 great inductees. Again, banquet's on Tuesday. It's coming up Tuesday. Purchase your tickets. Come support. Bid on some items. If you can't come on the online auctions, make donations, whatever you can do to help. So,
Can you tell us what the ticket prices are again, Jeff?
$35.
$35 for the
35, and I actually think they go up to 40 on, I want to say Friday or tomorrow or Friday. So make sure to get them before they move up to 40. So
just pay 40 and it all goes to a great cause.
Right, that too. Okay, well, that's the Hall of Fame banquet. Ethan, we have you on to talk a little bit about UVU. Intersquad this Saturday, 4 p.m. in the grand ballroom, right, which is a little bit different, not the typical place.
It's actually the place that we hold the National Hall of Fame banquet. So.
Right. So 4 p.m. it starts. Grand ballroom, same place we do the Hall of Fame banquet. Before we get into the actual matchups, Ethan, why don't you give us a rundown? Season just started a few weeks ago. How's the team looking? When's your first competition? Why don't you just give us a quick overview, and then we'll get into the matchups.
Yeah, we had a good spring and summer, and a lot of guys wrestling at university and things like that, and went over a lot of technique. First official day of practice was October 10th. That's when we've been going a lot more hands-on and things like that. And so guys look good. The guys are hungry. They're ready to compete. We're battling a couple injuries here and there. So we have a really young team. We have one senior and two juniors, and then the rest are freshmen and sophomores. So, and there's 28 guys on the team. So, that's a lot to look forward to, and we're looking forward to a good season. And our guys are, like I said, they're hungry and they work their tails off. So it's good.
When's the first?
Real quick.
Go ahead.
You've been in the Iowa wrestling room, and I'd really like a sense of where we are, as far as the work ethic, the intensity, the athleticism, from where you were in the Iowa room to the room you're seeing at UVU right now.
I'm telling you right now, the work ethic and the athleticism, we're more athletic, I'll tell you that much, than the Iowa room. But the work ethic is, I'm telling you, we're right there. We're even with the best guy. I've been in the best rooms. I've trained with the best guys, and this team is even with the work ethic. As soon as we get the mindset and the mentality along with that, we're gonna be going to places that UVU's never been before, and I believe it's there. And and now it's time to put these guys to the test, and the season's coming up, competition's coming up, and we got the Intersquad this weekend, and then Cowboy Open November 5th. That kind of opens up the season, and most of our guys will be competing there. There'll be a couple guys that won't, but for the most part, about 80% of our lineup will be in there. So it's going to be.
Like the tangibles are there, the athleticism, the work ethic. It's just kind of getting that mindset, the confidence, maybe the expectations, right? That you have when you're an Iowa wrestler.
Yep. And we're starting to get the depth where guys are, they're pushing these guys, and it's starting to become a fight, and it's a fight every day in that room now. So that's the next step. So.
Well, thanks for answering that. I just thought I'd throw that out there. So I was just curious to hear your perspective on it.
And for those that can't make the Intersquad, the Cowboy Open, it's on Flow Wrestling. So anybody that has a Flow subscription can watch all the matches at the Cowboy Open, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. So this weekend, let's talk Intersquad. Let's just start at 25. Kind of go up through the list of and what we got and who's going to be competing, and what can we expect to see matchup wise.
Yeah, so 25. There's four guys in that weight class. We got Mitch Brown, Taylor Lamont, Heston Woolsey, and Tyler Scott. And the matchup that obviously people are going to want to see is Mitch Brown. He's a returned missionary, wrestled at Air Force 1 year, redshirted last year, and he's been looking good. He had some good wins last year, and Lamont, we know about him and his success and things like that. So that's going to be a good matchup and one that's going to be fun to watch. So those four guys, and we'll see how it shakes out.
So is Taylor still redshirting?
Yes.
So it's not like really a varsity wrestle off per se. It's
good. It's a good gauge to see where he's at.
Okay. But they will wrestle each other. Brown and Lamont will have a match.
All of this is very tentative just because you never know what's going to come up, but that is a high possibility. I just don't want to commit to it.
We're not trying to lock you down, but that'd be a cool match to see.
Yeah, I'll be good.
But I think it's interesting. I think a lot of people were expecting Taylor to be at 33, so I think it'll be fun to see him compete at 25. And will he compete at 25? You know, the Cowboy Open and some of those events.
Yeah, we're planning on competing at 25, and just, I mean, that was all on him. We were open to him going 33 or whatever, and you know, he thought he came back from Worlds only weighing like 32, 30 sometimes, and so we he kind of proposed it, and you know, we're all in with that idea, and so it's more of a gauge to see how he feels with these 1 hour weigh-ins and see how he feels in these 7-minute matches, things like that. Just
what do they have to weigh?
Maybe that's
Sorry.
something, Ethan, that you can kind of talk to is the a lot of people think about a high school wrestling room and you kind of have wrestle-offs and the winners varsity and the losers JV. I know a college wrestling room is a little bit different because you've got guys they're highly skilled wrestlers. You've got guys that are wrestling each other on a daily basis that see each other. It's not as cut and dry as far as if they win this match, they're the varsity guy, and if they don't win this match, they're the JV guy, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, a lot of times people get too, I mean, maybe too caught up in the hype of a wrestle off, you know, or whatever. But when it comes down to it, you want to see guys that are competing to score points and continue to score points, not to get a takedown and then try to win 2-1 or 3-1 or whatever. So I mean, that's what it's all about. And this is, you know, I think both these guys do a good job. I think a lot of our team does a good job in that aspect. So I mean, these wrestle offs, they do mean something. They mean a little bit, but it's all about scoring points and continuing to score points and wrestling hard for 7 minutes and wrestling to the best of your ability. So.
Right. So you're looking at work ethic in the room. You're looking at Cowboy Open, how they compete against other teams, other competitors.
Exactly.
So it's kind of an all-encompassing, and certainly this dual factors into that, right?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, I think like Cole's onto something where, you know, you gotta, sometimes you're looking to see how they compete, you know, in tournaments and things like that for the overall determinant of a spot, because I think Cole's saying you can wrestle off with somebody all the time, and of course the matches are going to be very, very close because of the familiarity. But then one wrestler might go out to Midlands and place, and the other one's 2 in a barbecue, but he might beat the other guy. And I know, like with the one wrestler I had that competed in college, Nathaniel Holt, he was pretty close with this one guy. He was a pretty quality guy. But Nathaniel would lose to him in the wrestle-offs, and then that would actually do better in some of the tournaments like Reno and Midlands and things like that. And the coach had to kind of have some tough decisions on what to do because Nathaniel at the time was a freshman and the kid was a senior. And so, you know, it's like I said, it's not quite as like, oh, you win the wrestle-off, you're automatically varsity. You know, am I describing that accurately? Cole, am I answering, contributing?
Hey, Ethan.
Yeah.
Ethan, how close do the guys have to be to weight on Saturday?
Yeah.
So this weekend is a little bit different because we have a little bit of a social for the family and friends of the program and things like that.
So 24 pounds allowance?
So I think they're getting 4 or 5 pounds. So, and it's a little bit earlier weigh-in so that they can socialize and meet and greet a little bit. So.
Well, typically in college, it's a 1 hour weigh-in, right?
Yep. So tournaments are usually 2, and then unless it's a 2-day tournament, then it's a 2-hour weigh-in. The first day, second day is a 1 hour weigh-in. But for all duels, it is a 1 hour weigh-in, and there's never any weight allowance in any dual meets. So.
Okay.
So 25 will be fun with Taylor, Mitch. Love watching Mitch wrestle. He, you know, last year he was off his mission. He was going, and you know, now he's been in the room for a year. You know, I'm excited to see him go, and obviously Taylor, one of the top recruits in the country. So will we see Tyler Scott and Heston Woolsey wrestle as well?
Yep, that's the tentative plan.
Gotcha. So moving on to 33, I know Jared Maines dropped down from 141 to 33. Who can we expect to see Jared Maines wrestle? I know DJ is out, right? Austin Trapp is out as of right now.
Yeah.
Who could we possibly see? Jared, another goer. Who could we see him wrestle?
We could possibly see him wrestling a guy like Finley, who's up at 41, or the guys at 41 are Trevor Wilson, Chase Cole, and Matt Finley. And Finley's obviously going to be redshirting this year, coming off his mission. And then you got Trevor Wilson and Chase Cole. Trevor Wilson's the only senior at 141, and Chase Cole is he redshirted last year. He'll be a freshman this year. But he just had a concussion. He's supposed to be getting cleared on Friday, but you never know how that's going to go. So if that's the case, I'd see Wilson and Cole wrestling, and possibly a Finley and Jared Maines matchup.
And so if Call's out, will one of those maybe wrestle twice or?
Yeah, there could be a couple scenarios where you'd see guys wrestling a couple matches.
Gotcha.
So just depending on injuries and things like that.
So moving up to 49, who do we got? Who can we see at 49?
We got Grant Lamont, Matt Ontiveros, and Landon Knutson. So all three of those guys are healthy and
We can have a Maple Mountain wrestle off, huh?
Right.
Yep. So we'll probably see the match there will be Grant and Matt Ontiveros. That's kind of maybe the 149 key matchup. They wrestled a couple times last year, and Matt wrestled for us a little bit, and he's wrestled for us for 2 years. He'll be redshirting this year. So
and Matt was the starter last year at 49. Grant redshirted this year. They're just flip flopping, right?
Yep, correct.
Gotcha. And then 57. What do we got? I think 57.
We got Raider, and he'll probably be wrestling off a guy, probably someone from 65. So
Gotcha. Yeah.
65, we got 4 guys at that weight. Got Dalton Harmon, who's a redshirt sophomore. I got Coy Wilkinson, true freshman. Michael Milner and Kyle Snelling, also true freshman. So Snelling, he's kind of been out with a little bit of a hip flexor type deal. So I don't know if we'll see him, but we'll definitely see a Coy Wilkinson and Dalton Harmon matchup, and then possibly Coy wrestling twice, maybe, and wrestling Raider.
Now, up until this weight, we've had Mitch Brown at 25. Sounds like is a starter. Jared Maines at 33. Trevor Wilson 41. Grant 49 with Matt redshirting. 57 Raider. 65. Kind of are you at liberty to say kind of where we're at there?
We're gonna see what happens on Saturday. This is one of those ones that there's a little bit more at stake. Just going into, because after the Cowboy Open, we have a road trip to Iowa where we're dueling Nebraska Kearney and UNI, and then we're going to the Harold Nichols Iowa State Open. So this one, there's a little bit more at on the table, so to speak. And Dalton Harmon, he's been kind of recovering from a back injury, and his back's, it's just one of those things. He's gonna have to learn to wrestle with that, and so this one is a little bit. We're gonna see how Dalton does and see how that match shakes out, and if Dalton's okay, if his back handles it, then it's gonna maybe decide who we take to Iowa, or if not both of them. So
with this Coy Wilkinson, so there's a possibility he may not be redshirting. Is that?
Yeah, that's correct. Yep.
Gotcha. So that'll be fun to kind of see how that shakes out this weekend.
Yeah, these young guys are hungry and motivated coming in here, so it's good.
That's good. Now 74, Kimball Bastion will be the
Correct.
top guy, I'm assuming. What can we see? Is Kiefer in the mix there? Or?
Kiefer is about to be cleared. He had a knee surgery this last summer, and so he's been on the mat, and he's been doing, short time live periods. So he's right there. I wouldn't see him wrestling this weekend, but he's right now he's kind of back up to 74. Right now Kimball's the kind of the guy at that weight, but so you can see Kimball wrestling any of the 84 guys, or in the 84 weight class we got Will Sumner, Gary Yonser, and Abel Gomez. So I'd say you can maybe see a Will Sumner and Kimball Bastion match, or we'll see. So
No, is Will the guy at 84 as of right now? Is that?
Yep, that's correct. Yeah, Gary Yonser, he's a true freshman. He could be. we're trying to get him ready to go for Cowboy Open. So this week he's out, and
Well, where is he from?
he's from Coos Bay, Oregon.
Okay.
So.
And then at 97, got Tanner Orndorff. Who will he be wrestling?
He will wrestle Ayrton Almberg. So.
Gotcha. And do we have any other 97? Those are the only two 97s, right?
Yep, those are the only two. Yep.
And then heavyweight, we have, I'm assuming, another wrestle off that will mean something.
Yeah, this one's kind of like the 65. This one had a little bit more at stake. We got Dustin Dennison and Jordan Karst. They kind of, they battled it out last year, and Dustin kind of won the spot. I think Jordan might have even beat him in a wrestle off. But going back to, what Cole and Brian were talking about a little bit, it's about how you compete, outside of the room and maybe outside of just those two guys. And Dustin did a good job of that last year, but Jordan, he's really been turning the corner this year, and we'll see how it shakes out. So, and then along with those two, you got Ben Andrew. So,
gotcha. And will we see Ben Andrew? Because he was a folk style national champ coming out of high school, went on a mission.
Yep, he just got back from his mission this last summer, and he's been in there working his butt off, trying to get back into the swing of things. And you'll see him probably wrestle Jordan Karst.
Gotcha.
You'll probably see Jordan twice.
So it sounds like kind of the key matchups, the ones that are kind of on the line, 165 heavyweight.
Yep.
For me, 125, I'm excited to see with Lamont and Mitch Brown. Excited to see Matt Finley back on the mat. I know he hasn't been back very long, but it'll be fun to see him. 49 Grant and Ontiveros. Like you said, I saw them wrestle a couple times last year, and so it'll be fun to see that again. So for me, those are kind of the highlights plus the wrestle-offs. It should be a fun day for sure.
It'll be a good one. So
I think the Grand Ballroom, that's going to be a fun setting. I guess you're going to bring in a platform maybe and put the mats on it, or
I don't think we'll have a platform. Just, there'll be two mats going, and
okay, so you got to be
a little bit more area to see, just so people aren't all bunched up. So.
Well, I just thought, I don't know. I just visualized, it might be kind of fun if you got that platform and have the people sit below and elevate the rest.
Yeah.
Like they do at the
That would be good.
crazy concept. Just me talking out loud there.
And then Ethan, free admission, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
Free admission.
Bring your guys. Bring your teams out.
Yes, let's get everyone out there. Come support. See what the UVU program's all about.
4 o'clock again?
4 o'clock?
Yep.
4 o'clock. Great opportunity to see some high-level wrestling, and sounds like there'll be some great matchups. Definitely don't want to miss it. It's going to go quick, though, with two mats, so make sure if you're coming, you're on time. So get there a little early. Probably expect an hour 15 minutes.
Yeah, and then after the duel, come up to these guys and pick their brains a little bit. So get to know them a little bit.
Sounds good. Well, Ethan, Brian, do you have anything else before we sign off here?
No, and thanks, Ethan, for your work, and so great to have you on staff, and it's just real neat to have that Iowa presence, and with you and Luke, I think that that's going to add a lot to the program.
Yeah, it's good to be back. A lot of good things happening at the university and in the whole state of Utah, youth and everything. So a lot of good things going on.
We're excited. We're excited for Saturday, 4 p.m. again, Grand Ballroom. Bring your teams. Bring everybody. Come support. One last plug, Hall of Fame banquet. Purchase your tickets. If you can't make the banquet, we'll have the online auction on WrestleUtah.com tomorrow. So check there. We'll put it on Facebook. Check the items out. Make some bids. Make some donations. Help out the UVU wrestling team that way as well. So next week, Wednesday, 8 p.m. again, we are going to be talking about with Brian, wrestling against cancer duels, kind of going over the different teams that will be there, what it's for. Brian, you have anything to say about that, or we'll hold it till next week?
We'll talk next week. I just got to get the matchups decided. we got one, hopefully a good one with the Westlake Thunder going. So we'll review that next week, okay?
Yes, next week, Wrestling Gets Cancer. The week after that, we'll probably roll out our Beehive Top 25, and we'll keep on rolling. So thanks for watching. See you guys next week.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks.